was in a bookshop earlier this year when I picked up this book. It just seemed to catch my eye. Finding Hope Under Bethlehem Skies, an Advent devotional. Don't often buy these sorts of books, as I usually would read Luke and the 24 chapters in the build up to Christmas. However, this year I've bought this one. And I read a little about the author. Apparently this is his first book, Robin Ham, and that he's actually a pastor of a church in Cumbria, England. And he has a wife and 4 children. The second thing that struck me about the book, other than the word hope and the Bethlehem skies, that these devotionals were from the book of Ruth. And I had never made the connection before between the book of Ruth and the Christmas story. And just another note about Robin Ham, he also writes blogs, I think they might be weekly, on a website called thathappycertainty.com. So those are definitely worth a wee read, because I had a wee browse myself there. So the Christmas story is so familiar to us that sometimes it's good to look at it with fresh eyes. And sometimes we find it hard to see and appreciate just the wonder that there is within the birth of Jesus. And it's nice to see it through a different way, coming through the book of Ruth. And I really would recommend it to you all. In the book, there's clear explanations showing how Jesus is the climax of God's love and redemption. And there's also a challenging application question each day to help you apply these truths to our lives. And then at the bottom of the page, there's also a song. After it advises to take some time for prayer and to prepare our hearts, there's also a song of the day that you can listen to as well. And just as well as the song, it just was reminded to me as well that the Christmas carol, O Little Town of Bethlehem, there's some beautiful lyrics in it related to hope. Yet in the dark street shineth the everlasting light. The hopes and fears of all the years are met in thee tonight. So I'd just like to leave you with some great words of hope. If you only carry one thing through your life, let it be hope for better days ahead. Let it be the hope that can get you through the toughest of times. And let it be hope that can help you overcome all the challenges that come your way. Let it be hope that you're on the right path and you're exactly where you're meant to be. And during these dark times, hope will be what gets you through. May the God of hope fill you with all joy and peace as you trust in him, so that you may overflow with hope by the power of the Holy Spirit. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Amber and I'm here to chat about our recent book club book, which was The 5 People You Meet in Heaven by Mitch Albom. Now, admittedly, I'll be honest, this is a book which sat in my to-be-read pile behind me here for a very long time. For whatever reason, it just never caught my attention, never drew me in. So whenever the opportunity came up to read this in book club recently, I was so excited to finally get stuck in and see what all the hype was about. So to give you a bit of a background as to what happens in the book, our main character, our protagonist, is 83-year-old Eddie. Eddie works in an amusement park and it's his birthday when we meet him. But the author makes it very clear from the very beginning that this is also Eddie's last day on Earth. So you have this kind of countdown from the very beginning. Each chapter is broken up into these, 45 minutes before he dies, 30 minutes before he dies, and it's building that suspense from the get-go because we just don't know what's going to happen. And it's also very suddenly, you're brought into this from the very beginning of the book, leaving you wondering what will happen next. So Eddie works in an amusement park. He's worked there his whole life, and his whole life has kind of been focused around being there as a child, growing up there, meeting his first love there, and eventually getting a job there. And it's now going to be the scene of his death as well. And it happens very suddenly. There's an accident with one of the rides. He jumps in to save a small girl who's going to be crushed by a falling cart from one of the roller coasters. And the next minute he wakes up, he's in heaven. Now I don't want to tell you too much about the 5 people he meets. As you might have taken from the title, he is going to meet some very key characters. But what I can say is that each of these people have influenced his life in some way, or vice versa. He's maybe been a big influence or a big impact on something that's happened to them. And it's through these characters that we actually learn a lot about Eddie and his life and his past and history, and where he got to really, by the things he's been through. So we learn about his family, we learn about his mum and dad and his big brother as well. We learn about the time that he served in the war in Vietnam, being a prisoner of war, about falling in love for the first time, about getting married, and the many things which happen in between. But it's really interesting the way that the author chooses to keep circling back to Eddie's birthday. A lot of things seem to have happened to him on his birthday every year, and it's that the author keeps kind of pulling us back to throughout the book when he's meeting these different characters. So it was a really interesting book for us at book club, especially because the opinions seem to be divided on how much you connected with the book, based on whether you read it or listened to it. So personally, I'm a big reader. I much prefer to get my hands on the book and actually read it myself. And anybody like me who did that seemed to have a very emotional connection with it. Whereas the people who maybe listened to it instead, they were perhaps a little bit more disconnected from the characters, didn't just have that same sobbing, crying when the time came, or whenever the big moments happened in the book. So for us, the main themes or the main kind of takeaways was obviously the connection to faith and spirituality. So it kind of subverts that notion of what heaven's going to be like. Instead of meeting your maker straight away, you're meeting these 5 different people who you've impacted or who have impacted you in your life. It's a very interesting take on what heaven would be like. But the thing that probably is very similar is how initially when Eddie gets to heaven and he wakes up, he's not in any pain. All of his aches and pains have gone away. His bad knee isn't giving him problems anymore. He's not tired. He's not weighed down by things. He's not worried about anything in life. He is at peace. He is calm. And that's probably the first connection that we have to the normal kind of notion from the Bible of what heaven's actually like. The other thing that it kind of talks about is just forgiveness and letting go, especially forgiving yourself, because I think that's something that a lot of people struggle with, is giving themselves that grace to let go of things, the mistakes they've made. And as he meets the different people, they each teach him a lesson about something that he maybe needed to let go of in life, or needed to forgive himself for, or in turn forgive other people too when they've made mistakes, because ultimately the book is talking about how we're all human, and nobody is perfect. The other thing is how we're all connected as well. Each person he meets, he maybe didn't even realise that he had an impact on their life, that he played an important role in them getting to where they were, or even in their untimely end. But it's a lot about kind of how everybody in the world that you meet, you can have an impact on them, and the importance of remembering that as you go through life. And finally, the big thing for me, or the big theme that I took away from it, was how there is a plan for everybody. It is all laid out in front of you, and it doesn't matter what role you play. So often we can get caught up in titles and importance of doing a certain thing or being a certain way, but what the book is talking about is it doesn't matter what you do, it doesn't matter who you are, just being a good person is the most important thing, and loving the people around you. So I thought it was an absolutely brilliant book. I really enjoyed it, and I would definitely recommend it to anybody. It's only 200 pages long, no time at all to read it, and it's absolutely fantastic. So yeah, hope you enjoy it.